Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Dear students, it is our lecture number 5 of X-ray diffraction techniques. Course code is CAM 5134 for MS Chemistry semester 2nd. Today we are going to discuss following topics in this lecture. First of all, inshallah, we will discuss lattice points, lattice parameters, unit cells, characteristics of unit cells, types of unit cells, and at the end, symmetric and asymmetric operations. Lattice points. Lattice points actually are the patterns are located upon the points of a lattice, which is an array or arrangement of points repeating periodically in 3 dimensions. Lattice points can be thought as forming identical tiny boxes called unit cells that fill the space of the lattice. Lattice parameters. The unit cells stocked in 3-dimensional space describe the bulk arrangement of atoms of the crystal. The crystal structure has a 3-dimensional space and 3-dimensional shape. The unit cell is given by its lattice parameters, which are the length of the cell, edges of the cell, angles of the cell, while the position of the atoms inside the unit cell are described by the set of atomic positions, which are xi, yi, and zi, measured from a lattice point. The size and shape of the unit cell can in turn be described by the 3 vectors, which are A, B, and C, drawn from one corner of the cell taken as origin. These vectors actually define the cell and arc, which are called the crystallographic axis of the cell. They may also be described by in terms of their lengths A, B, C, and the angles between them, which may be alpha, beta, and gamma. The lengths and angles are the lattice constants or lattice parameters of the unit cell. The vectors A, B, C define not only the unit cell but also the whole point lattice through the translations provided by the vectors. In other words, the whole set of points in the lattice can be produced by repeated action of the vectors A, B, C on one lattice point located at the origin. In the structure, a unit cell is shown. In the unit cell, there are 3 axes, which are denoted by small a, small b, and small c. And between the axes there is an angle. Keep in mind that between the A and B, gamma angle will be formed, and between B and C, alpha angle will be formed, and between A and C, beta angle will be formed. This is about the crystal systems. By dividing space by 3 sets of planes, we can of course produce unit cells of various shapes depending on how we arrange the planes. The 14 Bravais lattices are described and illustrated in where the symbols P, F, I, and C, etc. In the following table, the 7 crystal systems are given. The first one is cubic, and second tetragonal, and orthorhombic, and rhombohedral, and hexagonal, and monoclinic, and ultimately the triclinic. The crystal systems are actually described on the basis of the axes and the angles. We have discussed there are 3 axes A, B, and C, and the 3 angles alpha, beta, and gamma. On the basis of these axes and angles, we can divide the crystal systems into 7. And each crystal system has a definite Bravais lattice. For example, cubic is given the Bravais lattices P, I, and F. P for simple cube, I for body-centered cube, and F for face-centered cube. For the tetragonal structure or crystal system, there are 2 Bravais lattices. One is simple and second one is body-centered. And we have discussed for the simple there is a P symbol for Bravais lattice and I for body-centered. Orthorhombic crystal system has 4 Bravais lattices, which are simple, body-centered, base-centered, and face-centered. And we have given the P for simple, I for body-centered, and C for base-centered, and F for face-centered. Rhombohedral has 1 Bravais lattice, which is only the simple one, which is denoted by P. Hexagonal also has a single Bravais lattice, which is denoted by P also. And in monoclinic, there are 2 Bravais lattices, simple and base-centered. Simple P and base-centered C. Triclinic has only single Bravais lattice, which is the simple. If we conclude, we have total 7 crystal systems and the 14 Bravais lattices, 3 in cubic, 2 in tetragonal, 4 in orthorhombic, and 1 in rhombohedral and hexagonal, 2 in monoclinic, and 1 in triclinic. And we have already discussed that these cubic systems are actually explained on the basis of different axes and angles. Axes may be equal or unequal to each other, and same is for the angles, which may be equal to 90 or greater or less than 90, and they may also be equal or unequal to each other. Here is the formula to determine the lattice points in a unit cell. We must first distinguish between simple or primitive cells. The cells having symbol P or R and non-primitive cells any other symbol. Primitive cells have only one lattice point per cell, while the non-primitive have more than one. A lattice point in the interior of a cell belongs to that cell, while one in a cell face is shared by two cells and one at a corner is shared by 8. Because in the body center a single cell is present, while at the corner actually one corner is shared between 8 different cubes. If a single unit or cell is shared between 8 different cubes and one cube has only 8th part of that cell, and face is shared between actually the two cubes and one cube has half of that cube. And if we explain about the edges, one edge of a cube is shared between 4 different cubes. A cell which is present at the edge of the cube is shared between 4, and one cube will have the 4th part of that cell or lattice point. The number of lattice points per cell is therefore given by n is equal to ni plus nf over 2 plus nc over 8, where ni is the number of interior points, nf number of points on faces, and nc number of points on the corners. I stand for interior, f from the faces, and c from the corners. Keep in mind that any cell containing lattice points on the corners only is therefore primitive, while one containing additional points in the interior or on faces is non-primitive. At the glance, the lattice points in a non-primitive unit cell can be extended through space by repeated applications of the unit cell vectors A, B, C, just like those of a primitive cell. The full lines in the figure delineate such a cell centered on the C face, but we see that the same arrangement of lattice points can be referred to the simple tetragonal cell. We may regard the lattice points associated with a unit cell as being translated one by one or as a group. In either case, equivalent lattice points in adjacent unit cells are separated by one of the vectors A, B or C, wherever these points happen to be located in the cell. Now we are going to explain the unit cells. Let us have the unit cell. Atoms are a group of atoms forming a building block of the smallest acceptable size of the whole volume of a crystal is defined as a unit cell. Actually, the unit cell is the smallest geometrical portion of crystal which can be used as repeated units to build up the whole crystal. The smallest volume of a crystal showing all characteristics of its lattice. By stacking identical unit cells, the entire lattice can be constructed. Actually, the lattice points are located at the corner of the unit cell and in some cases at either faces or the center of the unit cell. Here are the unit cell dimensions. From the left side, we have a simple unit cell. The corners points showing the lattice points, and we have discussed if a unit cell has the points only at the corners, it is primitive, and if it has at faces or the centers, it is non-primitive. If we combine the lattice points in a three-dimensional pattern, we will get a crystal of a compound. Now we are going to have some important points about the crystal or unit cell. The crystal structure of a material or the arrangement of atoms within a given type of crystal structure can be described in terms of its unit cell. Because we have discussed each unit cell has all the characteristic properties of a crystal system. The unit cell is actually a small box containing one or more atoms, a special arrangement of atoms. Smallest group of atoms which has the overall symmetry of a crystal. You should keep in mind that each unit cell may contain a single molecule or more than one molecule in it. It is the smallest building block of a crystal, and the unit cell is the smallest group of particles in the material that constitute the repeating pattern in the material, which is called the unit cell of the structure. Characteristics of unit cell and shape of unit cell. A unit cell has a definite shape we have discussed. The unit cell also has constant values of three cell lengths, which are A, B and C, and for the angles alpha, beta and gamma which are present between the cell lengths. So the basic unit cell in 3 dimensions is characterized by 6 values known as the unit cell parameters, which are 3 lengths and the 3 angles. A, B, C are the lengths of the unit cell edges, and alpha, beta, and gamma represent the angles between them. For example, a simple unit cell which is shown on the screen. You can see it is the unit cell which consists of the 3 axes x, y, and z. On the x-axis it is the unit cell length A, and on y-axis the unit cell length is B, and on the on the z-axis the cell length is C. The angle which is present between the B and C cell lengths is alpha, and beta is between A and C cell lengths, and gamma is between A and B cell length. This is the unit cell in 3-dimensional space. You should keep in mind that unit cell lengths are distances parallel to the 3 major axes, as shown in the crystal. It is customary to represent the unit cell length parallel to x-axis with the letter A, parallel to y-axis with B, and parallel to z-axis with C. The angle between A and B is denoted by gamma, between A and C with beta, and between B and C with alpha, as shown in the figure. These are the types of unit cells. There are 4 types of unit cells. First one is simple or primitive unit cell, which is symbolized as capital P. In the 7 crystal system, which is obtained when we use a simple unit cell. The simplest unit cell, having lattice points at the corners only, and with the addition of corners there is no other point in the crystal or unit cell. This is called primitive unit cell. Second one is body-centered unit cell. In the body-centered unit cell, one point at the center is present, and in addition to the center, the others are also present in the corners. It is symbolized as capital I. Means in body-centered unit cell, there are points present at 2 sides, one at the center and others are present at the corners. Third one is face-centered unit cell. It has one point at the center of each face of the unit cell, and in addition to the face, also points are present at the corners. Each face-centered unit cell has 6 sides and 6 faces also. It is symbolized as capital F. The fourth one is end-centered unit cell. It has points at the corners and at the intersection of the diagonals of a pair of opposite faces. It is symbolized as capital C. These are the cubes which are shown from the left side. It is P, mean primitive unit cell, and in this cell you can see the lattice points are only present at the corners. The second one from the left side is the body-centered unit cell. You can see the lattice points are present at the corners, and also one point is present in the center of the unit cell. The third one from left side is face-centered cube, and in the face-centered cube you can see the 8 corner lattice points, and in addition to these 8 lattice points there are 6 face points, because each unit cell has 6 sides, right, left, front, back, top and bottom side. And at the end it is end-centered cube. In the end-centered unit cell, the lattice points are present at the corners of this unit cell, and in addition to the corners, the 2 points are present which are at the diagonal position of the unit cell. This is the table in which the number of particles per unit cells are discussed. In a unit cell, 3 things are present. First one is corner of the cell, second one is the face of the cell, and third one is the center of the cell. In simple cube, we know there are only corner points, and in addition to corners, any other point at face or center is not present. And we know there are 8 corners in a unit cell, and one unit cell is further attached with 6 other. It means one corner of the unit cell is further connected and shared between 8, and so we have 8 corners, and 1 by 8 part of a particle from each corner. So ultimately we have the total 1 particle per unit cell. In the face-centered, there are the corner points and face points. Corner are the 8 and 1 by 8 part from each corner. There are 6 faces, and 1 face is shared between 2 unit cells, so half particle from each face is contributing in a unit cell, and ultimately in this way we have 4 particles per unit cell. In the body centered, we have the corner points and 1 at the center of the unit cell. In this way we have total 2, 1 from the corners and 1 at the center. In end-centered unit cell, 1 from the corner, and we have discussed end-centered have 2 faces which is shared between further 2 cells. So in this way we have 1 from the face and 1 from the corner, and ultimately we have 2 total particles in a unit cell. Thank you.